Any yeshiva that has anything to do with Misrad Chinuch is closed. Right? But not all yeshivas have to do with Misrad Chinuch. Ministry of Education. Chinuch is education. You understand what happened to Gabi? I gave him a book and he stopped coming.
No, he's getting back from Tel Aviv. He said.
Well, I saw that Dave went to the airport and he got stuck there at like 2 a.m. That's rough.
Yeah, I saw
His
that.
flight got canceled last night.
Do you know what airline he was flying?
No,
Okay, so we saw two different explanations as to why it is that the Pikach is Becher, chooses the king. One was Al Pi Seichel, one was Al Pi Neshama. Right? And then the Rebbe explained to us the inyan of Kula Mischalfin. What's that? That the Kula Mischalfin is not a reason why the Pikach chooses the king. It shows that the choice of the king is the right choice because the king is forever and they aren't, right? Which means the king is real, the king is emes. Right? Now that works more in the nimshal, in the analog, than it does in the mashal b'seder. Okay. In Ois Vav, the Rebbe asks, but it seems that the Bechir of the Pikach therefore is simply for some future goodness, that he's willing to give up something in the present for something in the future. But we realize that no, ultimately it's all about, and mitzad the neshama, it's all about choosing the king because the king is king, and he's willing to forgo his own metzius in order to choose elokus. That was the end of Vav. Okay, Zion. Zion starts a whole new understanding of everything with a new medrash, which the Rebbe is going to. Actually, it's not a medrash; it's a mashal from the Alter Rebbe that will help us understand things on an even deeper level. La yesh lahosif. Perhaps one can add. By virtue of the fact that the choice of the neshama that's beyond intellect, nimsheches, is drawn down to pe'elus ba'seichel, which is what we talked about in Vav, right? That the seichel is affected by the choice of etzem and neshama, and so it's both seichel and neshama. But we want to understand that on a much deeper level, because ultimately the Rebbe is going to say that there's an elevation in the Bechira mitzad, the fact that it expresses itself in Seichel. How does that work? That's what the Rebbe starts in Zion. The choice of the neshama that comes from beyond Seichel, is drawn down and affects the Seichel, right? Because we talked at length about what Seichel is all about in Ois Vav, and how Jewish Seichel can ultimately be mevatel itself. It can relate to the idea of doing something that's not in what seems to obviously be my self-interest, right? Even though in the end it is obviously, but in the meantime it might not be. Whereas Seichel in general is interested in what? Ashtei li, what's good for me, right? Why? Well, Seichel's part of me, so Seichel doesn't exist in order to destroy my life. Seichel exists in order to make my life better, so to speak. Okay, so then I will probably relate to myself in any equation that I dream up relative to a decision that I have to make. Okay, Jewish seichel is able to go beyond that and connect to the essential connection of the Eibishter that exists on the level of neshama. That's what we saw in Vav. Okay, so now the Rebbe is saying a chiddush. Misvasef ba, in the choice that comes from the neshama. Misvase ba ilui naila yeser, it's elevated mikmei shehi mitzad atzma, as it is mitzad itself, by virtue of the fact that it resonates in intellect. In other words, we say again, there are two different aspects of our choice of the king. One is seichel, one is etzem, neshama, right? And ultimately, the essential connection resonates in the seichel. That's what we said in Vav. Now the Rebbe is saying, and that's possible in Seichel of, that's obviously possible in Seichel of Nefesh Elokis, and therefore it's possible in the Seichel of a Yid, whose Seichel is connected to the Seichel of the Nefesh Elokis, even though it's from the Nefesh Abamis. Okay. Now the Rebbe is saying something new, that the choice that comes from Etzem and Neshama is elevated by virtue of the fact that it expresses itself in Seichel. How's that work? This is where things get quite astounding. V'yuven ze bahakdim amavur b'sidr dibur maskol avodim ayinu lepadr b'mitzrayim. This is all understood by what's explained in the Siddur. When the Rebbe says the Siddur, he means the Alter Rebbe Siddur, right? Called Tfilas Kol Shana.
Pass me a mimer. Oh.
Tfilah L'Kol Shana, right? The Alter Rebbe wrote a Siddur. In that, meaning that we know the Alter Rebbe wrote a Siddur, we daven out of it every day, but there's also a Siddur with Dach. There's a Siddur with Chassidus explaining different parts of the Siddur. It's a very thick Siddur. It's around here somewhere. I'm sure we can find it. Right? It's called Siddur im Dach. Dach Divrei Elokim Chaim. Chassidus. The Mittler Rebbe actually wrote the Maimarim that are in the Siddur, right? But they're the Maimarim that the Alter Rebbe said, but the Mittler Rebbe wrote them down. All right, so in there's a mimer called one of the things that's learned from that Siddur every year, not by everybody, but by one particular person in every community. Rabbi asked, and this has been a minhag Lubavitch for generations, that the Baal Tekeya, the one who blows the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, learns the Alter Rebbe's mimer on Tekiya shofar from the Siddur. All right, and that's what you'll see the Baal Tekeya doing shul in the morning before Shachris on Rosh Hashanah, right? That the mimer that's in the Siddur is dafka the mimer that we learn, right? So there's also a mimer there called Avodim Ayinu, Lepadr b'Mitzrayim, right? Explaining in Yonim and Pesach, which is in the Siddur, page Kuf Daled. V'yuven zeh bahaktim amavur b'Siddur dibur maskol Avodim Ayinu Lepadr b'Mitzrayim. Be'in hashpa hanimsheches la'ovrei ritzeinei. Page, oh, that one might not work. There's one that's all messed up.
Okay.
I noticed. There's one that's all messed up. I don't know how that happened, but it's all messed up. Is this the one? Yeah, this is the one that doesn't work.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not.
Yeah, here's the first page. I don't know. It might be if you fiddle around with the pages, it'll work, but that's what you get for losing your copy. You see that? There you go. There was one typed up. I hope only one. Okay, the Rebbe brings a moshel. B'inyan hashpa hanimsheches la'ovrei ritzeinei. Relative to the hashpa, the bounty that's drawn down to the ones who transgress his will. Because remember the story of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva said when they saw the incredible bounty of the Roman governor in Eretz Yisrael and how much more the emperor would have, and people were wondering why can it be that these horrible, terrible people have such bounty. And Rabbi Akiva's statement was, wow, look what he gives to the ones that transgress his will. Imagine what he gives to the ones who keep his will. Right? But that's going to be in the future, which we saw in Vav, right? And so that's Lasid Lavai. Okay. So those Evrei Ritzeinei, we said that their bounty, Shirak B'derech Agav, it only comes by the by, meaning that the king is apportioning out lots of bracha. And that which goes to the Evrei Ritzeinei, the ones that don't have such a relationship with the king, what does it say? It says like he throws it behind him. Right, so what did we say that meant? Command the Shadi Basar Kasfui, someone who throws behind his shoulder. What did that mean relative to the whole creation of the world? And we learned so many secrets about why the world works the way the world works so far in this mimer. It's really quite astounding, right? That the Eibishter wants to make sure that there's something called a Veda. And in order for there to be a Veda, there has to be something called Klipa and Sitra Achra. And that Klipa and Sitra Achra can't be some wimpy, poverty-stricken klipa and sitra achra, but it has to be something that really looks there's something very, very real and very enticing and very successful. And then there's real aveda. Then you have to be a pikach to choose the king, right? Because it might be, you'll say, look what's going on over here. Right? There's all this bracha over here with Gashmias, and all I have to do is play the game right, and I'll just have a life that's wow, what a life, incredible, amazing. Everything will work out. Right? If I read the right books, I'll have emotional stability, and if I get the right degrees, I'll have financial stability. Everything will work out. Right? I'll do the right exercise, I'll have physical health, and I'll live for who knows how long. Right? It'll all work out. No, it doesn't work out. They freak out, but okay, what can you do? It'll all work out. Looks pretty good. So where does all that bounty come from? So we saw already. The bounty for Klippa comes as if it's thrown over the shoulder. The Rebbe brings an amazing mashal. This is the Alter Rebbe. It's like a king. Always talking about kings. He makes a great meal, great party for his big ministers. They're all over 6'2". His big ministers, va'avadim chashuvim, and his important servants, umeitzi al zeh mamen rav, and he spends a great deal of money for this banquet. Umiashirayim shel asuda. So now, there's a lot of food left over, right? The waiters are bringing in food, and they're not at the table. They're in the back. They're bringing in food. How much food is being eaten? I don't know. A quarter of the food is being so much food. And then they take it all to the back. Well, so who eats it in the back? Ooh, who's in the back? U'miashirayim shel asuda. From the leftovers from the Suda, makablim gam pechus erech, even those people of less importance. K'mei, like who? Avadim u'shvaches she'achrei rechayim. The servants and the maid servants who are achrei rechayim means on the other side of the rechayim is that which grinds the wheat. I mean, they're on the other side of the table. They're not they're doing the menial work. Va'ad. But not only do these avadim get, who else gets? Va'ad shegam haklovim oichlim es hatzomes. The dogs get the bones. Shemashlichim lamata, that are thrown below. The dogs in the king's palace are eating better than the people who are outside the king's palace, right? I mean, the dogs are doing very well. Okay, but now everybody's in the king's palace in the motion, right? Okay, so the king has a banquet, and in the banquet, there's ministers and very important servants. They're at the table with the king. Then everybody else is in the kitchen behind. So what are they doing? They're eating like unbelievable what they've got back there. They have a feast back there. The dogs are eating the best stuff imaginable. Why? Because the king's making a feast. Who's he making a feast for? For the Sarim and the Avadim. Okay, so let's see how this all works out. Ad, shugam haklovim eichlim es hatzomes, they eat the bones. Shemashlichim lamata, that are thrown down, and these are good bones. This is meat, not chicken. You can't give dogs chicken bones; they'll choke. These are big meat bones. This is like wow. He's going to be working on that bone for 2 weeks. That dog. Shebetach loy kivein hamelech. It's definitely, obviously, the case that the king didn't have intention lahoitzi to spend all this money bishvilam for them haitzais, these expenses. The king didn't spend all the money so the servants in the kitchen would get a good meal. Now, they do get a good meal, and that's why the king isn't bothered by that per se, but that's not why he spent all the money on the banquet. V'zeh shenishpa lehem shirayim, and that which they get the leftovers. Shegam hashirayim shel hasuda hein rav, also the leftovers in the Suda are hein rav, a tremendous amount of, hein is like value. Worth, right? Every now and then you get something from the tax people and they want you to tell them all about your home, everything you own, every pension plan you have, every bank account you have, every house you own, right? Etc. Right? Okay. So that's called some harachat home, establishing your home. So net worth, something like that. So that's home. So this the shirayim, the leftovers in this Suda are of great value. But rak, what? Urak b'derech hagav. The king didn't make the Suda to feed the dog. The king made the Suda to feed the people who were sitting at the Suda with him. Aye, but other people get great benefit from the Suda. That's certainly true. Now, what's interesting about those other people? Those other people have less of a connection to the king than the people sitting at the table. And to have a connection to the king, the people sitting at the table had to work very, very, very hard, right? I mean, you don't become a sar just stum. And the sar obviously has to have a lot of bittul to the king, right? Because you're not going to become a sar if every time the king says something you disagree with him and tell him that you know better than he does. Right? So you're not going to make it to be a sar. So how do you sit at the table? Probably a little bittul to sit at the table. Okay, how do you work in the kitchen? Bittul to sit and work in the kitchen? No, when the king doesn't even know who you are. He doesn't see you. The King of Kings sees everybody, don't worry. He knows who we all are. But in the mashal, the king knows who's working in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. He didn't hire him, and he won't fire him if he has to get fired. All right? Now, what about the Eibishter? Such a fascinating mashal. So too in the analog. The hashpa that comes to those people who transgress the Eibishter's will, who rub b'derech agav. It's only, derech agav means in a secondary way, by the by. Command the shadi basakasvi, like someone who's throwing behind his back. Meaning what? What did we learn earlier? It's not pnimius haratzon, it's chitzonius haratzon. What does the Eibishter want? The Eibishter created a world, and he wants us to bring about a great revelation of him in that world through our avodah. That's what he wants. Why? We don't know. Kacha. That's what he wants. We do very well based on that desire because we exist, and I think existing is a pretty cool thing. Okay, fine. So he gives us existence so that we can be part of this reality called world, and in that world he has a desire, and that desire is that he should be revealed. Okay, he wants a Veda. So in order for there to be a Veda, what does there have to be? Like we've talked about this numerous times, there has to also be the possibility of not doing a Veda, because if there's no possibility of not doing a Veda, then it's not called a Veda. Right? It's just doing what you do. You can't not breathe, right? You can't hold your breath until you die, right? Evidently, humans can't do that, okay? So breathing isn't such an impressive thing. Oh, he's really breathing well. Look at that. Wow, he really said, I'm an unbelievable Aveda on his breathing. Now, when might breathing be something of interest? If you're swimming, breathing is pretty good, because if you don't breathe well, taka, it doesn't work very well, does it? Because we don't do well breathing underwater. So if you're not breathing in when your head is over there, or you're breathing in when your head is there, and you're blowing out when your head is there, so you're not going to last very long doing that, right? You're going to, okay, fine. So there it's an avodah to breathe. Okay, joggers, evidently, I guess people lifting weights probably have something, where they're supposed to breathe a certain way. I don't know, you go in, you go out, I don't know. I'm not sure. Right, okay, fine. So breathing. But general breathing is not a big avodah, right? Okay, fine. Why? Because it's just what you do. So to malachim, serving a Kadosh Baruch Hu is no big deal. Why? Because there isn't anything else. They don't know how to do anything else. Not that they're not impressive in the fact that they don't know how to do anything else, but that isn't what the Eibishter wants. The Eibishter wants someone who has the possibility of not serving him to serve him. So therefore, the whole reality of Klippa is very, very powerful and very enticing. But where does it come from? So we already saw this. Chitzonius haratzon. It's not what the Eibishter wants, but it's, so to speak, necessary evil. Yeah, okay. It's the necessary evil that allows for real avodah. But when the Eibishter gives vitality to that state of reality, it's over the shoulder. Fine, okay. Fine. So this mashal, there's people sitting at the table getting food directly because the king wants to feed them. And there's people in the back getting food, not because the king wants to feed them, but because there's leftovers, so that the king didn't make the food for them, but there's food for them. Now, they're necessary, interestingly enough. Okay, so now who are those people in a Feda and all of that? Who's the dog? Who's the simple Eved? And who are the people sitting at the table?
It's the Jews.
They're all Jews.
They're all Jews.
Every single one of them. Let's see who they are.
Okay.
Right? Okay.
Good question.
Because the Rebbe is talking about Avodah here, right? So does that mean that other people also have Avodah? Of course they do, but the Alter Rebbe wrote this mushal so Yidden could appreciate what their Avodah is about. Okay. V'yesh leimer. Yeah? So it's Oiver Ritzeineh. So we said that was Chitzenius Aratzin. V'yesh leimer. Zeh shemevi shnei dugmois. The fact that the Rebbe brings. This is our Rebbe talking now. Two examples, shashpalem, that the bounty of them, hirak b'derech agav, is only by the by, right? Ve'enu yoshvim b'shulchan hamelech, and they're not sitting at the king's table. Who are those? Avadim u'shvaches u'klavim, meaning avadim and shvaches go together, and klavim. U'shnei dugmos be'elu sheyoshvim b'shulchan hamelech, and there's also two examples of those people sitting at the table. Sarim gedolim, vavadim chashuvim. Right? Yeah? Important ministers, and big ministers, and important servants. It's interesting, important servants are at the table. Okay. So now, what's the important servant? Who's the minister? The minister is we're going to see, there's going to be two different types of ministers. There's going to be, because every government has an inner cabinet and a regular cabinet, right? So the big ministers, that's the minister of finance, the minister of external affairs. I'm being Canadian. The minister of external affairs, the minister of, whatever, a few, okay? Fine. So there's the important ministers, right? Then there's also going to be regular ministers. We'll see. There's going to be two different types of ministers. And the avadim chashuvim. Who are the avadim chashuvim? The highest ranking civil servants, right? They're not sarim, but they're very important civil servants, right? They're the people who actually run everything, right? Because they hang around longer than the ministers. But okay, right? So those are the high-ranking civil servants. They're at the table of the king. Who are they in? And then there's the avadim pshutim, whoever they are, and then the klavim. So let's see who these people are in Aveda. Okay. This is really quite amazing. Hu behetem, this is all consistent. Hetem means consistent. To umim are twins. So this is, something that goes together with. It's matim, right? Oh, that's matim. That's like a reasonable thing to do at this point. Hu behetem ledaled dargers benimshal. The 4 levels in the Nimshal. Meaning there's going to be 4 different levels of people serving the Eibishter, or not. Shadarga hachi tachteina, the lowest level, hema klovim, they're the dogs. She'enim oivdim es hamelech, they don't serve the king. V'rotzeinam hu sheyush belem gashmias, and their desire is that they should get gashmias. All they want is gashmias. Oid v'oid, more and more. Right? Dogs. We like dogs, okay? But in Chassidus, dogs are not considered a very lofty animal, right? What's a dog say? Huv, huv, huv. What does huv mean? Give, give, give. Right? A dog will eat itself to death. Dogs are stupid, right? If you go away for a week and leave out a week's worth of food for your dog, he will eat himself to death the first day. That's what they'll do, right? Because they're really idiots, right? A cat, I'm not voting for cats over dogs, right? I like dogs more than cats. Dogs are nice, they're friendly, etc. Cats are snobby, right? Okay. That being said, cats are a lot smarter on certain, and you can't train a cat to go find people, go help you hunt, okay, Beseder, but the cats are a little smarter. The cat will eat what it needs every day, and the food will last a week. You can just leave out a week's worth of food, and the cat will do fine. The dog, kill himself. Okay, so what's a dog? What's a dog? Well, what's the word mean? Kelev, kol lev. He's absolute lev. He's just midas, no seichel. Right? Dog. Now that's what makes him so nice, right? Is when you're 15 years old and you don't have a lot of self-confidence and you come home and this dog thinks you're just the greatest thing that ever happened and he goes mashuga when you walk in the door. So that's a nice thing for a 15-year-old. The cat looks at you and goes and walks away and expects you to go over to the couch, maybe pick her up and pet her so she'll purr so you'll feel good because she's going purr, purr. She doesn't show any interest whatsoever in your existence. You're just the one who might make her feel good. Okay, so she's a creep, right? But he's just head over heels in love with you, and he's like going with sugar. I don't know why I made her a she and him a he, but whatever. There's something deep in that. And he's just so happy that you're home. Okay, but he's kulalev. He's all midas, right? It's all midas. That's the dog, and that's what a dog represents in Chassidus. And that's why Chassidim don't have dogs. Right? There's never a thing Chassidim had. Jews, Bechlal, never had dogs. It's some in the old country, in the villages, they might have a dog because they needed a dog to help take care of some sheep, etc., etc. But like a pet dog, not such a thing. Right? Right? They don't. Klavim are chutzpahdik. They don't know satisfaction. In other words, they never get enough. Give a dog a cookie. What does he want when he finishes the cookie? Another one, right? And you can just keep giving him cookies and he'll get sick to his stomach. You just keep giving him cookies, right? That's the dog, right? Milk bones or whatever it is. Right? Okay. V'yesh l'kasha zema yadua shekelev u'miloshen kulei leiv. Why did Adam Arishon give the name Kelev to the animal? Because he saw the chunot of this animal, the characteristics of this animal are kulei leiv. Not that I don't like dogs, okay? I like dogs, right? I see a dog in the street, someone walking a dog. I usually look at the dog and smile because the dogs are always smiling. Dogs are always smiling when they're walking down the street. The person is looking like the whole world fell on his head, and the dog is walking along with this, he's smiling away, just happy, right? Okay, so they're nice dogs. But they represent a level of reality that's all about me, which is what dogs are about. That doesn't mean they can't be nice. They are. They're wonderful. It's all midas. The teva adam, the nature of a person, b'toldase, naturally, meaning the way he's born, the teva yitzirase, and the nature of his being formed, is what? What's the natural state of every human being? Fascinating thing the Rebbe says. Shameach sholit alalev, that the brain should control the heart. And every human has that possibility, that they can come to an objective understanding of what's good and true, relatively or absolutely, and act in accordance with that. Right? Okay. That's called being an adult, right? Children, the mayach is not shalit alalev. Children are much more leiv and much less mayach. But as a person grows up, if they grow up, so then they're much more mayach and less leiv. That doesn't mean they don't have emotions, but their emotions are tempered by their intellect. So they know when to show proper emotions. So anybody with intellect will not show unbelievable emotion to this person of the opposite gender that they're walking along the street with. Anybody with any intelligence isn't going to show the absolute most powerful expression of their emotion for that people as they're waiting for a bus. That's dogs, not humans. They're humans who act that way, 100%, because they're not very sophisticated humans. Right? So they're making out at the bus stop, but that's a dog. It's not a human. Humans shouldn't act that way. Humans do. Why? Well, because they're acting like dogs. What are they doing? They're not acting in the natural way humans should act if they're healthy humans. They are allowing emotion to overcome intellect, right? Which is a dog. Right? Doesn't mean they should be shot, just they're not particularly impressive. And that, with the fact that he's a kelev, means he's on the opposite extreme. A human acting like a kelev is just not acting like human beings should act, and always did. Right? It's only relatively recently that certain behavior has become something that people aren't ashamed of. Right? It's just bizarre. Right? They always were. Right? Okay. Say them. Not only has this person reached a state where the heart is controlling the mind, furthermore, completely emotion, complete taiva. All he thinks about all day long, right? One taiva to another. from eating to this to that, whatever the taivas are, just one after the other, just thinking about how to fill up his taivas all day long. Right? Are there people like that? There's lots of people like that. Okay, do they have to be like that? They don't have to be like that. If a person who does any work on themselves whatsoever isn't like that, okay, but this person just, can't relate to that. To do something that might be a little bit difficult and a little bit hard, nah. Lochen, kol inyane, ulamales taivas libe. All he's interested in is filling up the taivas of his heart. Okay, that's the level of kelef. So he doesn't have anything to do with the king. He's not interested in the king. He's interested in himself and just making sure that he gets more of what he wants in life. Okay. But there's people beyond that, Baruch Hashem. Ulamaylim izeh, hem avodim apchusim. The simple avodim. Right? And that the Rebbe said are the avodim and the shvachah sha'achrei rechaim. They're the ones working in the kitchen, right? They're working in the kitchen. They're picking the stuff in the field. Nothing too sophisticated. There are avodim who are overseeing the whole thing. They have a very serious responsibility. And then there are avodim who are just, doing the basic manual labor. Okay. So those are the simple avodim. So who are they in the nimshal? Shehem oivdim es melech. They serve the king. They're avodim. They serve the king. Ela shavedosam hirak mitzad ha'echrech. But their avodah is only because it's necessary. It has to be. I mean, they have no choice. What's that? Mipnei emes hakasa shevet. They're worried about they'll be hit if they don't work. Right? Which means what? In their avodah, hepech haratzon v'tainug shalem. This is the opposite of what they really want and what they really enjoy. They don't enjoy the work and they don't really want to do the work. They just realize that they have to do the work, so they do it. I mean, I have no choice. What are you going to do? Okay, so that could be an evident gashmias. That's a person who, but it's really a horrible way. I just can't imagine what life is like if this is the way it is, that every single day you go to work to a job you don't like. My goodness. A lot of people do that, That just must be murder. Right? You can't stand your job, but you go every single day. Why? Because you have to. You have no choice. What are you going to do? Starve? Right? Whoa. That must be horrible. Just horrible. Probably everyone here has probably had it. I don't know, I hope. Everybody here has had a job like that at some point in their life. Usually the first jobs you get aren't necessarily so enjoyable, and so you spend the day looking at the clock and can't wait till 4 o'clock comes, 5 o'clock comes. Okay. Say a high school student or a university student working a summer job, that's one thing. Your whole life. Oh my gosh. There's lots of people like that. And you know what it does? What do they say? It turns them to drink. What's the thing? It's something them to drink. Whatever. There's a saying, right? They end up drinking because they're miserable. Miserable. Must be very, very difficult, right? You work in a Ford Motor Company putting the same bolt onto something in the car for 8 hours. How hard that must be for a human being to do that. My gosh. I mean, they're getting robots to do it now, right? Okay. But it's just, okay. So there's people like that. So in Avodas Hashem, there's also people like that. They do what the Eibishter wants. They just don't enjoy it. They just really don't enjoy it. It's not what they want. It's not what they get enjoyment from. They do it. Why? Hey, what are you going to do? You're not going to keep Shabbos. Right? You're not going to eat kosher food. But what they just imagine how much non-kosher food must taste so good. Wow. Okay, but what am I supposed to do? I have no choice. Okay. Wow. And now, this line that we've been using lately, because we had a couple of days without Tachnun last week, so we talked about it. The Avda Befkera Nichalei. Right? This Eved, this level of Eved, this is the level of Eved that it says about, that he's more than happy not to have to go to work. Right? He'll do whatever has to be done. Why? He has no choice. He has to do whatever has to be done. But if the boss comes and tells him, today you're off, oh my goodness, he's so excited. Baruch Hashem. Okay? So the mashal for that is Tachnun, right? We all say Tachnun every day. We're not going to say Tachnun. You have to say Tachnun. There's a chassan. Baruch Hashem. You have to praise God less. Baruch Hashem. No tachnun today. Yay. Can't wait. And there's after the Akeda, that whole page. You don't have to say that whole page if you find out about the chassan early enough. Wow. Thursday, Nisan, a whole month, no tachnun, a whole month of no tachnun. Wow, amazing. Better than Tishrei until Yom Kippur you say tachnun. Tishrei, Nisan, the whole month, no tachnun. Yay! Less is best. The less I have to tell God I like him, the better. Baruch Hashem. Okay. So that Evid gets very excited about no tachnun. We all get very excited about no tachnun. I guess we've all got a little bit of this guy in us, right? Right? We don't have to beat ourselves up just because of this, don't we? Right? But we can make fun of ourselves. That's okay. If you can do that, then you're okay. If you beat yourself up, then there's something wrong with you. And the fact that since his true desires and his true pleasure in Taivas Eilam Hazeh, he'll do everything he has to do. He does what he has to do. He doesn't do favors, this guy. I mean, but he does a little bit, but he keeps Torah mitzvahs and he learns Torah and he does his Rambam and he does everything he's supposed to do. He doesn't enjoy any of it, but he does it because you have to do it. And what's his real tainug? I don't know. The Beinos Manim, he gets to go, I don't know, whatever, rafting. I don't know, whatever it is. Right? What? To the Bahamas, right? Go spend Pesach. And I remember, now everybody does it, but in the old days I remember seeing there's a newspaper called the Jewish Press. I assume it still exists, yes. Right? We used to call it the Jewish Mess. So it's this Brooklyn Jewish newspaper that is basically for religious people, even though other people would read it also, though I don't imagine anybody who's not religious reads the Jewish Press anymore. But probably in the old days when non-religious Jews were also very interested in Jewish things, they probably also read it, right? For the Yiddish jokes and whatever, right? But so the Jewish Press, I remember, used to show up now and then, and I remember seeing a full-page ad, Shavuos in Aruba. This is like 45 years ago. Now everybody goes. This was like, it's new. Shavuos in Aruba. You're looking, okay, what goes on in Shavuos in Aruba? You've been preparing for 49 days to go accept the Torah, and now you're going to go to Aruba to go accept the Torah. Okay, now, but what's in Aruba? So it just, and it says this all unabashedly, like it's just on there. 5 meals a day. 5, not 3, 5. 5 meals a day. Scrumptious smorgasbords. It's going on and on about all of the Gashmias.
24-hour
wait, all that, what?
24-hour tea room.
Probably 24-hour tea room, for sure. It's like JLI retreat, right? Right? 24-hour tea room. So, right? Hold on a second. No one thinks about this? Like, you want to go get the Torah isn't this sort of contradictory to the whole idea of accepting the Torah? I mean, you want to go, I don't know, go spend Hanukkah in Aruba. Okay, you're going to illuminate Aruba. We're going to the darkest place in the world so we can illuminate it. Oh, you're so thrilled. In the meantime, we're going to have 5 meals a day and we're going to put olive oil on it all because it's Hanukkah. Whatever, okay. But, Shavuos in Aruba, it's like, that one struck us. It's Shavuos in Aruba? Now, it is what it is, right? But, okay. Seder. Our son, we're talking to our son. I was just talking to our son. We're trying to work out. My wife and I are trying to go see my mother, and then we'll also go see our son on the way, since he lives in the middle. It's a place called Crown Heights. So so he said, when are you coming? I said, well, we're not sure. We're sort of working around here, around there, trying to figure out where it's, when it's best for yeshiva. So he said, why don't you come Shavuos? Oh. Now, we can't go Shavuos, but that's a very reasonable thing. Where do you want to go Shavuos? Brooklyn. What could be nicer than Brooklyn in May? I'm Brooklyn, dirty brick buildings, streets littered with who knows what. I mean, what could be nicer than Brooklyn? That's a place to go for Shavuos. But it is, right? Because there happens to be, a lot of shuls and a lot of Yidden and a lot of action. And it's a good place to spend Shavuos. And you go, last time I was there for Shavuos, so we went on Talucha. My son goes and he teaches a class a couple times a week in a Chabad house about a mile, an hour walk away. I mean, he usually drives, but obviously Shavuos you don't drive. So we went for a walk to I think it's what's it called, Mill Basin or something. I don't know, something out there. So we were discussing this on the walk. I must say, and I'm not saying this as a joke. I think the last 15 minutes of the walk wasn't this way. The first 45 minutes of the walk was amongst the ugliest, most disgusting places I've ever been in my life. Nothing of any aesthetic value whatsoever. Nothing. Just garbage, supermarkets, with dirty parking lots, and it was just gray and brown and dirty and right? Brooklyn. Right? Okay. Shavuos in Brooklyn. Wow. 5 meals a day. No, not 5 meals a day. Five l'chaims a day. Maybe you get an extra l'chaim on Shavuos. I don't know. But right? Okay. You'd sort of want to be somewhere Jewish on Shavuos, you'd think. This Evid, let's go to, I'm keeping Shavuos. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Right? But they're B'Seder, right? They're not doing Averis. They're afraid of the punishment. Okay, so the Rebbe says something really quite amazing here. They're not at the king's table. They're an Evid of the king, but they're not at the king's table. Because they don't really like the king so much. They do what the king tells them to do because they don't have a choice, because the king will beat them up if he doesn't. Right? I mean, that's in the mashal, in the nimshal. They're just because you have to do it. What are you going to do? There's no choice. Right? Okay. Also, not such a great way to spend life, but what can you do? Oh, Masha'enkein. Now we'll get to some people that we sort of like to emulate. Masha'enkein avodim achashuvim. What about the special servants? So we said they're sort of like the civil servants, right? They're like the senior civil servants. They're a little higher on the hierarchy, and they're involved in serious meetings, etc. They're with the king, right? When they're making decisions, they're with the king, right? Shavedosim esamelech hu b'rotzen v'cheshek. Their service of the king is with rotzen and cheshek. They're still an Evid, right? Meaning it's still going to be Kabbalah Soul, which is the Evid, right? They're doing it because it has to be done. But they get the geschmack from doing it because it has to be done. They enjoy it. Right? They serve the king with rotzen and cheshek. They enjoy serving the king. Right? They look forward to different expressions of serving the king. They look forward to trying to figure out how to daven shachris and actually pay attention to some of the words. They find that an enjoyable and interesting and uplifting challenge. That even though their Veda, the essence of their Veda is still Kabbalah Soul, is what they're doing this because they have to. They're committed to the king because they're an Evid, right? That's who they are. This is Avodim Chashuvim. Ki yadua chiluk bein ben le'Evid, as is known the difference between a ben and an Evid. The difference between the son of the king and the Evid. That which the son does the ratzon of his father who mipnei ha'ava. It's because he loves his father. In that which the Evid fulfills the will of his master, who b'derech Kabbalah Soul. He does it because he's committed to the master. But there might even be a level of love of the master, and he enjoys serving the master. He realizes the great schus he has, the great merit he has to be able to serve the master. The fact that he's doing this because it's Kabbalah Soul, this is what I have to do, but he enjoys it. He's happy that this is his lot. That they want to accept upon themselves the yoke of heaven. It might be something hard, might take hard work. Oh, it takes hard work, but they enjoy the hard work. A mashal I once heard from Zalman Gopin, Rabbi Shemtel's father-in-law, though it might be, I don't know, but I heard once that the source of the mashal is not in Chassidus. It's actually, someone once told me the source of the mashal is the Chofetz Chaim. I have no idea, but it's a beautiful mashal anyway. Well, anyway, I mean, it's a beautiful mashal. Right? So whatever the source of the mashal is, that what's Kabbalah soul? Kabbalah soul is that you have to do what it is that the king wants. So what might that be like? So that might be that you have 50 pounds on your back and you have to carry it up the hill. Okay, say that. So you can do that without cheshik. Why? Because 50 pounds of stones, you're schlepping it up the hill and your legs hurt and your back hurts and the sweat is dripping into your eyes and stinging your eyes and you're wiping it away. But this is what you have to do, so you do it. Okay. You're enjoying it? Enjoying it, but you're doing it. Okay, so that's Kabbalah soul. Right? What about Kabbalah soul b'ratzon b'cheshik? What if the 50 pounds you're carrying are diamonds? You're carrying 50 pounds of diamonds up the hill. Oh, that's nice. You're schlepping the diamonds. That doesn't mean your back doesn't hurt. That doesn't mean your legs don't hurt. It doesn't mean the schwitz isn't dripping into your eyes, but you've got diamonds on your back. That's what you're schlepping up the hill. Well, he doesn't like it.
Depends where you're going with it. If you're just going up the hill and you have diamonds, I guess it's not really like the biggest.
No, it's a pretty special thing to be carrying diamonds. The guy next to you is carrying rocks, so you get to carry diamonds. Okay. He doesn't like the mushroom. Say that. Right? You'll find yourself. Figure out a better mushroom. It's your job. Right? Okay. Because it's diamonds. What does that mean? A mitzvah. Might a mitzvah be hard to do? Sometimes. Cleaning for Pesach. It's hard to do. It's a pain in the neck. Right? Okay. But what? It's diamonds. Whose will are you doing by cleaning for Pesach? The Eibishter's will. The Eibishter wants you to find the chametz. Right? Oh. So you can find the chametz b'simcha and enjoy it, even though it's hard work, and your back hurts at the end of the day, and your mamish, your whole body aches because you've been doing things that you're not usually doing, right? Cleaning out pantries and moving this and schlepping this and doing all sorts of stuff. It's very, very hard work, and you'd rather sit in a chair and I don't know, learn Rambam or play Parcheesi, whichever happens to be your favorite thing to do, right? Okay, but it's the Eibishter. These are diamonds. This is something very, very special that you get to do. You're cleaning up what the Eibishter wants cleaned up. So that's a beautiful thing. As opposed to someone telling me, I want you to clean the house. Why? Kacha, because I told you to. And if you don't, I'm going to mash you. Okay, so then fine, I'll clean the house, but I'm not going to enjoy it. I'll probably be grumbling under my breath. Right? Whereas cleaning the house, because the Eibishter wants you to clean the house, okay, that doesn't make it any easier, but it's a whole different thing. It's a whole different thing. That's Kabbalah soul. It's a geschmack in Kabbalah soul. You enjoy doing what it is that the Eibishter wants done. Right? Why does the Eibishter want this done? I don't know. The Eibishter wants it done. Well, that's the Eibishter's thing. Why? I mean, do we have to clean the way we clean? So, Beseder, maybe we don't have to go as crazy as we go. Okay, Beseder, but the Eibishter gets a kick out of that also. Right? Adarabba. Right, in the old days, they could clean their house and check. They start cleaning the house in the morning and check it in the afternoon, in the night after Marav. Right? Why? How big was their house? It was one room, 2 rooms. Our house is Baruch Hashem, a little bigger. So that means it's going to take longer to check. Okay, so the bedrooms and all that stuff, which you don't have to mamish check, but when you have kids, you have to basically check everywhere. So you do that months before. I mean, who knows? My wife has basically already finished the upstairs. But that's not really Pesach cleaning, that's spring cleaning. Okay, Seder, but still. Why she do it now? Pesach, he cleaned for Pesach. And she doesn't have 2 weeks off before Pesach to do it. Seder. So you do it with a geschmack. All right, hard work. Right. It's the enjoyment someone can get about fasting on Yom Kippur. Right? As much as it's hard, it's a geschmack. Why? Because you're cleaning yourself up and the Eibishter is cleaning you up and you walk out of Yom Kippur a completely different person, cleansed, elevated. Wow, it's amazing. I'd rather have a croissant and a cup of coffee in the middle. Okay, say that, but that's not how it works. So you walk out of Yom Kippur and it's just a completely different state. It's amazing. It's incredible. So it might be something that most people have sort of a love-hate relationship with Yom Kippur. On one hand, it's really, really hard. On the other hand, it's so uplifting. B'chlal Tishrei. Tishrei is really hard work. On the other hand, it's just so uplifting. It's incredible. Okay. Bachrim who save up money all year long to go to the Rebbe for Tishrei. Right? Our sons, remember our deal with our sons was that we would pay for one ticket. They get one Tishrei on my bill, and every other Tishrei they want to go, they have to figure out how to find the money. So every one of them, right, after their bar mitzvah, asking how much money, it's uninteresting. I didn't say anything about it, but every one of them said the same thing. 6 boys, right? Every one of them said the same thing when they were asked, how much money did you make in your bar mitzvah? They make a bar mitzvah, they work hard for it, they do it, and then they get checks, and then they count it all up. Every single one of them calculated how many tickets to the Rebbe they had with the money. Every one of them. So how much you make? There might be 2 tickets, Abba. That's what they said. They didn't say they made $2,000 or whatever it was. They said 2 tickets. Every one of them. I didn't tell them to say that. It was just their chinuch. That's, Baruch Hashem. I wish some of it came from the house, right? How many tickets? And what did they all do later on? They all found jobs around the yeshiva, right? Leibush used to put away the books in Sfas. There's 400 bakrim, they just put away the books in Sfas every day. He wasn't the only guy, but I mean, he would, and he made money every year to buy himself a ticket to go to the Rebbe for Tishrei. What did that mean? What Tishrei is for a bacher? My goodness gracious, they work hard, right? Who knows where they sleep? Remember, they used to, the silvers, right? So there's a silver here as a shaliach, right? So the father of that, the grandfather of the silver here. So it's very, very, he and his wife were unbelievably hospitable. They basically made a hotel in their basement when they redid their house. But in those days, they had this rundown basement that I slept in. Rabbi Levinger slept in. We all used to sleep down there in that basement. When we went to Crown Heights. And how did we get to that basement? Because my son went to yeshiva with one of the silver sons, and there was a rainy Tishrei, and our sons were in a basement, and they woke up with their mattresses floating on a pool of water, and I think it was Itzi. It was Itzi Silver. Asked my son, how was it down there? He saw him in 7-7. He said, well, it was pretty wild. Where are you sleeping? We're sleeping in a basement. Well, we ended up in this. So, why are you sleeping there? Come to our house. So then they went to the Silver House. After that, all our kids went to the Silver House. That's where they used to sleep on Tishrei. Right, okay. Where'd they sleep? They slept in a basement. It was dry. They slept in a dry basement, right? Right. They would sleep in a dry basement. Sukkos, what was Sukkos for a bacher? What is Sukkos still for a bacher in 770? Sukkos is a bacher dances all night, right? Dances until 6 in the morning on the streets in Chutz Shuvah, right? Goes and sleeps for an hour or two. Goes to mikveh, probably falls asleep for an hour. Goes in 770, falls asleep at a seat. Wants a seat. Sits in 770, falls asleep, and then davens in the 10 o'clock minyan, right? The Rebbe's minyan, and he has a lulav. He doesn't have a lulav. Not everybody has their lulav, but they say that everybody takes lulav, obviously, and everybody walks and does Hashanas, and then they go get something to eat, and by 1 o'clock they go out on Mitzayim, and they do Mitzayim until about 5 or 6. They come back, maybe they'll sleep for an hour or two, maybe not, and then they start dancing after Maariv until 6 in the morning. They do that for 6 days, 7 days. That's their sukkahs. And you ask them about it, oh, sukkahs. Oh, are they crazy? What's wrong with these people? They love it. Does that to tell me it's 8:30 or whatever, 9:30? 8:30. What time is it? 8:30. Okay. Say that. So that's a Kabbalah soul with a cheshik. They love it. They're so tired. Right? I shouldn't say that. I'm not going to say this because I'm being, what happened to one of our sons. It's all right. Maybe after, if you remind me, I'll tell you. I'm not going to say it on the broadcast. Right? But the Avadim Chashuvim, what do they do it with cheshik? They love it. It's hard work. It's Ratzon HaMelech. And they do it with Kabbalah soul. Right? But that they do with cheshik. Let's get to the Avadim. They want to accept it. Where's their place? B'Shulchan HaMelech. They're sitting at the Shulchan HaMelech because they have a geschmack. They enjoy serving the Melech. So they have a connection to the Melech. So they don't do it because they're worried about getting smashed. Then they're doing it for themselves. I don't want to get smashed. I know they're doing it because they love doing what the king wants. because they realize it's diamonds. It's still hard work, but it's diamonds. These are the same. They have an appreciation of the way the kingship works. That for that reason, a number of different inyanim banhaga in the way the country works. Misnagim al piyam. It happens based on what they say, right? The king doesn't make every single decision. They make some of the decisions because they're sarim chashuvim. V'gam yesh lehem hasoga. They also have an appreciation. Hasoga means comprehension. B'mailas hamelech, and the greatness of the king. They appreciate who the king really is. U'mipnei zeh yesh lehem aveh love, and therefore they love the king. V'avedosam hi lo yidak mitzad kabbalas ol, and their avodah is not only mitzad kabbalas ol. That word rak. The Rebbe added that word. Actually, there's one other word. It's interesting. I'll talk about that in a second. I skipped over it. I should have. But when the mimer was given into the Rebbe added that word rak. It's not only mitzad, meaning without that rak, it's not mitzad kabbalas ol. The Rebbe added the word rak. It's not only mitzad kabbalas ol. Meaning there is kabbalas ol. It has to be kabbalas ol. Right? But it's not only kabbalas ol. It's also av. What other word did the Rebbe add in this paragraph? Ulai, the first word. When Rav Yoel gave it to the Rebbe, it said yesh lahisif, and you can see, meaning you can now get the photographs, whatever, of the Rebbe's additions. So the Rebbe added the word ulai here, ulai, perhaps, right? But the Rebbe once said, relative to the Frierdiker Rebbe, that ulai by the Rebbe is vadai by the Chassid. When the Rebbe says maybe by the Chassid, that's for sure. Right? But the Rebbe said, the Rebbe added the word here, ulai, maybe. Perhaps you can say like this, right? Rav Yoel didn't. Rav Yoel just said yesh lahisif, and the Rebbe added. And here, this rak, the Rebbe also added, which is very interesting, right? Because Rav Yoel wrote it and said it's kabbalas ol. There's no kabbalas ol. The Rebbe said it's not only kabbalas ol, but there is kabbalas ol. Right? This rak, the Rebbe added. He loy rak mitzad kabbalas ol, elagam mitzad ava. It's also mitzad ava. Right? The Sar loves the Eibishter. He loves the king. So serving the king is by him an act of love. He also realizes he has to serve the king. Even if he doesn't feel the love for the king, he's still going to serve the king because he's committed to the king. Right? Because the basis of any relationship is commitment, not love. Love is a beautiful thing, but the basis of the relationship is commitment. I'm committed to the other person. Hopefully I feel that love, and I'm also expressing that. But what if I don't feel that love? Why? Because I'm a little too stuck in myself today. So I don't necessarily feel the love, still committed to the person. You treat them any differently because you aren't feeling the love. Well, if you do, then that's going to be a big problem, right? That's how Western relationships work. So they break about 90% of the time, right? But if a relationship is based on commitment, it doesn't break, right? What does Avram say to Sarah? Tell them you're my sister. I understand. She's your wife. No. Sometimes, Avram says, this is how the Rebbe explains, this is amazing. Sometimes you might not feel the passion of the wife. What's the difference between wife and sister? Sister is a relationship that's unbreakable. You can't not be my sister. You're always my sister. Theoretically, you could not be my wife. It's a much more powerful relationship. But sometimes you have to revert back to the sister part of it. I might not be feeling the power and the passion of the wife, but I hopefully am still aware of the unbreakable nature of the relationship, which is the sister. Here they are going into a place of absolute darkness, and that's what Avram says to Sarah. You're my sister. In this place, we might not feel the passion, but we have to relate to the unbreakable nature of our relationship. Amazing, because that's what makes a marriage work, because you don't always feel the passion. Right? Not always, what's the word? Inspired. Not always inspired by your wife. You're always inspired by yourself. Not always inspired by yourself. You might not be interested in relating to yourself, let alone your wife. Okay, but what do you do to yourself? You feed yourself, clothe yourself, take care of yourself. Why? Well, because it's yourself. A healthy person is committed to their own well-being. Right? They don't abuse themselves. I mean, someone might, and that's completely unhealthy, right? Okay, a healthy person will take care of themselves. Are they at that point absolutely inspired by their life? No, they might not be inspired by their life right now. Okay, but they still take care of themselves. Okay, so do that with other people too, the ones you love, right? Take care of your wife, take care of your family. Are you inspired by being an Abba today? Maybe not. So what? Right? You take that out on your children. Are you an adult or a child? Right? If you're an adult, you take care of your children exactly the same way you would take care of them, even if you were incredibly inspired, couldn't wait for them to come home. Right? Right now you're busy and you'd rather they don't come home for another 10 minutes because you have something to do. No, they walk in the door. Hey, look who's here. Right? Exactly the same reaction. Right? You walk in the door to your wife, you greet her, you say hello with love and devotion. You're not feeling the love and the devotion today? Why? Because you're stuck in yourself. That's why. Okay, but say to her, that can happen. Does that mean you're great, perfect? You're not perfect. Okay, so that can happen. How do you greet your wife? Exactly the same way you would greet her, as if you had been waiting all day to walk in the door. Right? My son used to, one of his mashpiyim said an amazing thing. Said every day, when you're not feeling besimcha, when you're walking in the door in your house, you have to walk in with simcha. You're not feeling besimcha? Eat a chocolate bar. Eat a rugala. Eat something you like before you walk in the door. That was good. Okay, good. Now you can walk in the door with a little simcha. Right? That's real. That's real life. That's what the Eibishter also, right? Sometimes, you don't have to eat a rugala. Maybe you want to eat a rugala, whatever. Right? You want to daven b'simcha, and you're at a place where the only way you're going to be b'simcha is if you eat a croissant, not even a rugala. You have to eat a croissant. Right? Because it's better than rugala. There's more chocolate in the middle. It's like, chocolate. Okay, so fine, so eat it. If that'll make you daven better, eat it. Right? Would you like to be in a place where you don't need a croissant to daven better? Yes. Are you in that place? No. So eat it. Right? And daven with simcha. Right? Okay. Okay, we'll stop there because it's late. The Rebbe is going to explain to us there's really two levels of sarim. Right? There's the sarim chashuvim, and then there's the regular sarim. It only says in the mashal sarim chashuvim, but there must be regular sarim also. Right? And that is going to correspond to the three different people that the king came in with. In our first mashal. The king comes in with Duchsin and Astrit Galutin, and I forget the ones, Ifarchim or something like that, right? Right, the three different types of people that the king walks into the city in the beginning of the Maimer. So they're also there. Important sarim, regular sarim, and avadim chashuvim. They're all at the table with the king. And those three people were all with the king. Hayuita, it says, they're all with the king. Oh, so these are the people with the king. Who are they? So we'll see. Once our son